lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and I promised there'd be more Jack Kirby on this channel last time when I talked about Commanding Number 1. I realized there's not nearly enough Kirby content on this channel, so I figured what better way to do another Kirby book than to go through an issue of New Gods, his Fourth World stuff, some of my favorite creations of Jack's, and well, I don't have an issue number 1. I do have an issue number 2, and this is honestly one of my favorite issues from the run. I think it's gives you a lot of information, a lot of backstory in terms of the Fourth World stuff. You know, we got Darkseid. I think that's the first cover appearance, if I believe. He wasn't on a cover beforehand, but you know, Orion is also one of my favorite creations of Kirby's specifically. I talked about that a little bit in the Orion issue number 1 that Walt Simonson did in the early 2000s. So I'm really excited to kind of jump into this. I love stuff like this. You know, the sinister warlords of Apocalypse strike at Earth. Read, "Oh Deadly Darkseid." From the blueprint of the weird, see the dreaded fear machine. Just so much cool stuff going on this cover. I'm so envious of people that got to pick these up on the newsstands when they were first coming out. Just, you know, we get a little bit of the backstory of how the New Gods came to be. You know, the Holocaust, which destroyed the old gods, split their ancient world asunder and created in its place 2 separate and distinct homes for the new forces to rise and grow and achieve powers to move the universe in new ways. Now there is Apocalypse, forever orbiting in shadow, its surface marked by mammoth fire pits which illuminate its stark and functional temples, in which creatures of fury worship a creed of destruction. And moving with majestic serenity and eternal partnership with this seething giant is its sunlit sister world, New Genesis. Like, that is amazing. Like, that just like pulls you in. And then you're instantly transported to the world of New Genesis, and you see the, you know, as it says, the gleaming, the massive yet graceful, gleaming on its great platform, a skyborne satellite drawn in endless silence by its hidden mechanisms. I've always loved that about Kirby, his costume design, his technology that he designs. Like, it's so unique to him, and I still have yet to see an artist that has the wealth of ideas that continue to just, like, in the design work, just, he was always firing on all cylinders at all times. And then we meet the High Father here, and we see Light Ray coming to High Father, you know, saying that it writes in letters of flame, war, the decisive conflict between New Genesis and Apocalypse is here. And, you know, the champion of New Genesis, Orion, is already on Earth. And Light Ray wants to join him, and he's eager to join him. And he says, you know, you're the youngest, and your time to clash with monsters is not yet here. And I think Kirby's dialogue in these Fourth Worlds is it's got such an epic quality to it. You know, it's kind of like what I said about Walt Simonson, how he kind of really invoked a lot of that in his Orion comic. Just a very elegant, there's like an elegance to the way that this is writing, like almost a poetic nature to it. You know, and it's the ultimate battle, Darkseid of Apocalypse, and he's on Earth, and he's loosed his minions there. And, you know, again, Light Ray, it's not your time. And then we flash back to Earth, and Orion has, at this point, Orion has found allies amongst a group of humans, and they enter this room, and there's Darkseid with his smug look. He even calls Orion out for, you know, raiding Apocalypse before arriving to Earth. Got a shout out to, I mean, not only is this written and drawn by Jack Kirby, it's edited by him as well, and inked by Vince Colletta. He's like calling out Darkseid as his number 1 of his top 10 nightmares. And, you know, again, Orion rescued them from Apocalypse. And you know, Darkseid has now broken the peace that was developed between them. And, you know, you'll go on to find out, obviously, in later issues of the Fourth World stuff, about how, you know, Orion was really Darkseid's son, and Scott Free, aka Mr. Miracle, was really Highfather's son, and they made the trade, you know, to broker a peace between these 2 warring gods. And Darkseid doesn't give a shit. He'll do whatever the hell he wants to do. I gotta say, too, like, I love reading these as much as I love those absolute editions of the Fourth World Saga. I love reading these in newsprint. I love the smell of the newsprint. I know I'm not the only one. I know I call that out every time I go through an old comic, but I'm gonna continue to call it out because it's one of the great joys of being able to go back and read these. You got this. I mean, yeah, my paper is a little, it's off white now. It's a little yellowed, but like getting to see the colors the way they were on this newsprint, it gives you just a completely different reading experience. And even like Orion, he hesitates as he wants to finish Darkseid off, and he gets called out by it, and one of Darkseid's minions attacks Orion, and he's caught without defense because he doesn't have his Astro Force equipment. Just everything about this is just like, but Orion he's fearless, and his rage is controlled by the mother box that he has. That was also something that was touched upon prior to this. And just building up like the fear of Darkseid, how he moves as no one on Earth does. His machines are legion and infinitely precise. And referring to him as the arch enemy of all life. I mean, this is only the second issue. Yes, it's like it spans over multiple books with Forever People. Jimmy Olsen is connected to it, and obviously Mr. Miracle, like I mentioned before. It's so cool to see, go back and go to the beginning. And I've read the other issues. I just don't own the originals just because, they're not exactly cheap. But I was able to scoop this up at a steal, and I jumped all over it. Anytime you could pick up some original Jack Kirby comics, especially on the cheap, always got to go for it. And it's funny, because when Orion is less rageful and the mother box is attached, he looks different. He definitely has a different look to him, right? Like he's a little bit more handsome. It doesn't look as rugged as you'll see, like when he doesn't have it. Darkseid is, transported to his secret lair underneath the city, and just even from his own followers, that he rules with fear. He doesn't rule because like he's beloved by anybody. It's simply fear, and we get this fear machine. Darkseid is asked, how is it, and it waits only for your judgment, Master. I hasten to begin its initial test. Indeed, he does. Cruel Darkseid hungers like some parasite. So we get a little bit more of Darkseid with his followers. He doesn't even hesitate. He lashes out as they scream with terror. I love this too. We get a little to and from the source. This is by Mark Evanier and Steve Sherman, kind of talking a little bit about the behind the scenes of this Fourth World lineup of books. And this is where he wants to, yield the anti-life equation and the ability to unleash it on the city to control all free will. And then just look, Darkseid just looks creepy as hell. This is the mother box I was referring to also, where he's kind of giving everybody the lowdown. And like they even talk about how the mother feels strangely warm and an electronic sound like a computer. And it helps, and it's going to help them to see through his eyes. So we get transported into the mind of Orion as he's describing a boom tube, right? Like all this technology that Kirby's created, and he talks about Darkseid subjects and how they're roaming Earth to fulfill his mission, and there's everywhere. They're even in the water. And then we get Mantis, the call back into Forever People #2. Again, just beautiful Jack Kirby artwork. Flash forward to a scene from Jimmy Olsen, and this is now we see the invisible beam that Darkseid is now. His plans are coming to fruition. Everybody's scared. The fear of everything. He's like, and not even these walls will save you. But Orion has been trained to resist all degrees of fear, and he takes his mother box, he hops onto his Astro Force, and takes off. Dude, I've always loved this. I've always thought it was like a really interesting thing that he uses to fly and to transport himself. Just love it. And I love that you can hear the ping, 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 ping of their mother box working. And the fear generator is disguised as a billboard. So Darkseid is laying forth his plan. It's a great action scene. So once again, Orion thwarts Darkseid's plans. Even Darkseid doesn't even bother him, He's like, yeah, it's fine. It's your fear machine that yields nothing. Not the slightest trace of the thought waves we see. So Darkseid, once again, doesn't live up to it. He's always been kind of conniving and like wanting to backstab Darkseid. And this is interesting too. It's a kind of a throwaway line unless you know what's coming, but he says, "Was Orion my own son, he would mean nothing to the purpose of our mission. And in that mission, we must not fail." So we go back to the apartment, and they're still kind of shaken up a little bit, and Orion shaken up a little bit after Orion defeats Darkseid's machine, destroys it. So it's interesting too, because Orion is so rageful, but he comes from the peaceful New Genesis, right? So he's kind of at odds with himself about letting more of a ferocity to kind of take care of Darkseid and the forces of Apocalypse. Great way to end it as he looks down his fist, not knowing which path to take, and we just close in on his eyes. And the next issue, we introduce the Black Racer. Who is he after? You or question mark, right? And everybody that knows the Black Racer, he always follows death. He's the god of death, basically, for the new god. So that also is another great issue. I don't have the single issue for it, but it's definitely on my list of things to get. But I hope you dug this video going through this issue. I hope to do many more single issues of Jack Kirby, Fourth World stuff to come as often as I can grab new single issues of them. But definitely maybe even go through the absolutes, just kind of flip through it just to kind of see that oversize and what a great package that was put together by DC. If you haven't read any of the New God stuff, go pick it up. There's so many different versions, trade paperbacks, hardcovers, omnibus, absolute. They're some of the greatest creations Jack Kirby's ever done, and some of the greatest creations in comic book history. So go pick them up. Make sure you follow us on social media. Links are down below. Hit the subscribe button so you're notified every time a vid goes up. And on that note, I'm out.